pilot for the Texas Flying Legends. I got involved when they initially went out searching for a Mustang. They came to Minot to look at a Dakota Kid, and I happened to be there coincidentally, and got introduced, and that was kind of the beginning.
I fly the World War II aircraft here, primarily Betty's Dream, the B-25 bomber, and also the Mustangs a little bit. I'm an airline pilot is my regular gig, pays the bills.
I'm new to the Texas Flying Legends, so I'm the newbie. A couple weeks ago, I got a phone call from Doug Rosendahl, and he asked me if I was available for an air show out in Wiscasset, Maine. And of course, I took about 2 seconds to say yes, and then I cleared my schedule for the weekend. And then also they needed me to fly the T-51 from Maine to Texas, and then got invited back for this air show. So I'm brand new to the group, and it's an honor to be here. It's a privilege to be a part of the team.
My earliest memories are seeing airplanes fly and knowing that I had to be part of that.
I grew up flying with my dad, got my license at 16, and just started working my way up. 27 years of flying everything I could get my hands on.
When I was 10 years old, I went to Disneyland and saw an exhibit there that changed my life. I saw an airplane in the O. Kennedy exhibit fly across the amber waves of grain, and I spent the rest of my life chasing that vision.
I've been flying since I was a little kid. You met my dad, he taught me to fly when, I was 2 years old, I was in the seat already. Soloed on my 16th birthday, so I've been flying pretty much my whole life.
Through my family and some partners, we were able to acquire a P-51, and I started flying air shows with that, met up with Doug, and several years of flying with him, and got the invitation to come here.
It's a good gig. I'm very fortunate that I get to go do something that I enjoy doing, and it's also my employment and work. It's not like I have to go do a 9-to-5 job, and we got the best office view of the world looking out the window.
The mission of the museum has kind of evolved from its beginning was let's get some airplanes and go out and have some fun with some cool airplanes to let's figure out how we can use these airplanes to tell the story of freedom and what they represent and why we live free. You can go to museums all over America and you can see airplanes that are, painted up with a paint job and slowly corroding back to bauxite.
We need those airplanes on static display sitting in the museum. That serves a purpose, but seeing an airplane sitting there with a storyboard in front of it doesn't really tell the story.
When you see one of these airplanes that's alive and get to hear it and smell it and see what it looks like in flight, it's a much different experience.
We'll have 50,000 people here today at Wings Over Houston, and I see them coming through the gate out there. There's a lot of young people, and it makes an impression on them. They don't realize how visceral it is when that engine starts up and rumbles and the smoke comes out of there. I mean, you're breathing life in an inanimate object. I mean, it shakes and rumbles, and you can smell it and see it and smoke and everything, and that's incredible. It's a very different experience than walking up and seeing an airplane on display in a museum. And as far as the personal contribution we make with our time, I consider it a privilege to be able to do this. It's my passion. Sharing these World War II aircraft is really important for the story that we tell about the guys that flew them during the war, but also it's pretty cool flying the airplanes. I mean, there's some very, very special airplanes and very few people get to do it. So we try to minimize the risk by briefing well, and we're not getting shot at like the guys were in the war. We make it look like there's bombs going off, but that's just pyro, so there's not a lot of risk with that, and we try to operate the aircraft realizing that they're special, they're rare, and we don't take chances. We don't fly in bad weather, and we keep the risk to a minimum. And I think it's certainly worth it to get the planes out in front of the people.
The flight instructor handbook says that the definition of learning is a change of behavior as a result of experience. And so the ability for young people to see these airplanes fly and realize that 70 years ago there was something that was really exciting and really cool can be the spark that changes a young person's life.
I've had the privilege over the 27 years of flying to give probably 300 kids their very first airplane ride. So some of those that I've given rides early on actually have gotten their pilot's licenses now.
Well, just geographically, I mean, we move these planes all over the country, and it's great. You stop at some little town in the Midwest, you can't go anywhere in these airplanes without people coming out to the airport and seeing them. And my uncle did so-and-so, or in some cases that a fellow will come out in a wheelchair. Or you'd be surprised at the number of people actually come out to the airport when we land. and it's unannounced just because they hear the rumble of these engines. It reminds them of old times. You can see it in their eyes. We put these guys in the cockpit and they're 90, 91 years old, and it's a struggle to get them in there, and they sit there and you can see, 50, 60, 70 years just melt off their face. It's incredible.
We took a 100-year-old guy's name was Ralph. We took our forklift, put a pallet, made a little handrail. We lifted him up to the wing so he didn't have to climb on. And then a couple of us guys got him in the back seat and took him for his last P-51 ride. And that was an honor to do that as well.
There's a little bit of a sense of urgency because that entire generation is not going to be with us for a long time. So our effort to capture their stories and to honor them while they're with us is kind of urgent. But what we have to remember is we honor them when we educate and inspire the young people to remember, to learn and to remember what they paid so that we could live free. And I think that's not going to die with this generation. That needs to live on. And so we want to work as hard as we can to say thank you and honor them while they're with us. But ultimately, the ultimate honor that we can do for them is to inspire and educate young people about what they did for us and why we live free. An entire generation of young Americans put it all on the line because we were playing for all the marbles. And victory wasn't certain by any stretch. Early in the war, we were losing. Had we not been victorious in World War II, the world would be a very much different place. So that generation gave everything so that we could enjoy the freedoms that we have in America today.
If you put yourself back in 1941, right after we were attacked at Pearl Harbor, there was a great sense of unity, and the kids were running off to the recruiting offices to get out there and try to get into combat. They wanted to go because they wanted to make a contribution. They felt, we needed to all pitch in and make sure that we had the freedom. I mean, there was a big threat against our way of life in 1941, and they all pitched in and did what they needed to do. They were very young guys, they were very brave, and they were selfless. I mean, they went out and did what needed to be done.
A lot of kids don't realize what World War II was about. I don't think they realize the sacrifice. Just, nowadays, if you need something, you go down to your local store and you buy it, where back then there was some real sacrifice that I don't think the kids today appreciate or know a whole lot about.
At home, everybody was involved. Everybody was committed. It was rationing of gasoline. There were no tires. I've heard a story in the entire duration of World War II, there were 160 civilian cars sold in America. It's kind of hard to imagine at this time. So everybody was all in. Everybody was committed. There was a clearly defined, widely held objective, and that was to overcome tyranny. And everybody bought into it, and it's amazing what you can do when an entire country is motivated to a common goal.
My philosophy in life is if I could just do 10% more than the average guy every day, just 10%. It's not like I gotta be twice as good, or just 10% more, 10% better than the average guy. It gets you to that goal or to that level that you wanna be.
It'd be nice to see us all just be Americans again. There was some sense of that after 9/11, and we all sort of pulled in pretty much in the same direction for a while, and actually I thought that was a little bit of a mixed blessing to come out that it felt good to at least see all of us pull in the same direction. I think the concept of sacrifice before self, we all need to realize the United States of America is still the greatest country on the planet. It's not perfect, it never will be, but we all need to make some contribution so we can preserve that for the future generations, for my kids, your guys' future kids, everyone, I see signs of greatness in the past era, and also the inspiration that we see in some of the younger people now. They connect the dots. They see the airplanes fly. They'll hear one of these older gentlemen talk about his experiences during the war. And I think we have an impact. I think as an organization, the Texas Flying Legends Museum, we've got excellent support, and they believe in the mission. We're building the organization to try to have a larger impact. as far as education, inspiration of youth. And myself personally, I'll keep doing it as long as I'm able to do it health-wise. And there's a point where we all got to hang it up and I'm going to be sitting in the lawn chair, but I'll still be coming to air shows and watching.